What actually gains happiness in any endeavor in life is the gap between your expectations and your circumstances. For anything good in life, there's a cost that you have to pay. Nothing is ever free. Investing, career, relationships, the cost of admission is worth it. How much is enough? Just a little bit more. Like the right amount of money is just more than you have right now, no matter what the amount is. What I'm really focused on is endurance to make sure that I never get kicked out of the game, to ensure that the stocks that I do own, I'm never forced to sell them. The first rule of compounding is to never interrupt it unnecessarily. There's one of three things needs to change. Either incomes need to surge, either mortgage rates need to come down, or home prices need to come down. If you took today's housing market, very high prices, very high mortgage rates, and you mix that with high unemployment, everything falls apart. So there's all these like weird breakages mixed with a lot of great things that are happening in the economy at the same time. So even if I can say all these things are going well today, we could be talking 2 months from now and be in a completely different world. It's usually not a slow thing that kind of trickles in. It's like most recessions are usually a big exogenous event that hits that just throws things for a loop. There's measures of consumer confidence, and most of what moves consumer confidence, what actually moves the needles, are three things: stock prices, gasoline prices, and politics. Those are the things that people pay attention to, or they can just get a quick update when they watch the news for 10 seconds. Stock market's up, gas prices are down. I'm not hearing anything about politics. Good. I'm in a good mood. Or the opposite of that. If gas prices are going up and the stock market fell today and politics is a mess, you're going to be in a bad mood. And like those are the three things that move people's economic sentiment, that has a very strong impact on how much money they're going to spend. And the money that they spend is somebody else's income. So when you stop spending money, that's someone else's income that just went down. When people are optimistic, they go into debt. When they go into debt, the economy becomes unstable. When the economy is unstable, you get a recession. So the lack of recessions is what triggers the next recession. So by definition, you cannot avoid it. It's always going to be a thing that you're going to have to deal with in life. The same is true in the stock market. Like if the market never crashed, people would put all their money in the market. If they put all their money in the market, valuations go way up. When valuations go way up, the stock market's fragile and it crashes. So a lack of crashes is what causes the next crash. It breeds a level of over-optimism and over-complacency that causes the next crash. So when you accept that, just like the nature of how cyclical these things are, then you don't pretend that we're going to be in some sort of stable zone, or that we can stop these, or that the next recession is caused because this politician and that policymaker necessarily made a mistake. That's just an innate part of how any capitalistic society works. You have to assume, as I do, that there's going to be at least 2 recessions per decade, one of which is going to be really bad. That should be your baseline scenario. So don't act surprised when the next one comes. Don't say nobody could have seen this coming. So when you accept that, not only are you psychologically more prepared, but I think you should be financially more prepared. I think most people don't have enough cash and liquidity because they extrapolate the good times indefinitely. And they don't have the mentality to assume that just because it's good today doesn't mean everything can't be taken away from you next month. Like I said earlier, most recessions you don't cruise your way into it. You go from everything is great to utter chaos in 30 days. That's usually how it plays out. And most of what causes the big economic declines are surprises, things that people don't see coming. And so because of that, I think most people just don't have enough cash, liquidity, margin of safety, buffer in their finances. So accepting that just the natural path of what we've gone through in the past and that these crashes are inevitable pushes you naturally towards a greater degree of safety, not because you're conservative, but because you want to be able to survive and endure all of those challenges so you can stick around long enough to be a good long-term investor. So I think whenever people have a system that says, I'm saving up money so that when the market crashes, I'll put it in then. 9 out of 10 people won't be able to do that because when the market crashes, they'll be scared and they won't be able to do it. And when everything is going well, they tell themselves that they'll be able to do it. But in the trenches, when it happens, they can't. So if you could just mechanize a dollar cost averaging strategy and just say, on the first of the month, I'm going to invest $100 into stocks. I'm going to do that no matter what the economy is doing. You may not be able to do that either. You may still get scared out of that, but at least you're trying to take the emotion out of the equation. In terms of the amount of cash cushion, my view on this has changed a lot since I had kids. And it used to be that my economic situation was just me. And then it was me and my girlfriend, and then me and my wife, and then me and my one kid, and then me and my two kids. It's like that changed my risk tolerance and changed my goals of what I want. And with that came a corresponding change of, I think I want a little bit more cash, because if it hit the fan, it's not just my own well-being. I got 3 other people to take care of. There's no greater nightmare for me than not being able to take care of my family in any degree, to deny them something that a need that they would have, or even some sort of desire that they would have, because I took too much risk in the stock market. But other people would disagree with that. And they would say, no, if I lost everything, I think I'd be okay. And I'd pick myself up and keep going. I don't think I have that mindset for myself. So everyone's risk tolerance for these things is going to be different too. What I'm really focused on is endurance, to make sure that I never get kicked out of the game, to ensure that the stocks that I do own, I'm never forced to sell them. The more cash that I have, the higher the odds that I'll be able to hold the stocks that I own for 50 years. The less cash that I have, the higher the odds that I'm going to be forced to sell them because I need the money. Having that conservative portfolio is actually one of the most optimistic things you can do. Charlie Munger has a quote. He says, the first rule of compounding is to never interrupt it unnecessarily, because the variable that I want to focus on is endurance and longevity, not the right sector and whatnot, because I know that if I can earn average returns in an index fund for an above average period of time, not only am I going to achieve every financial goal that I have, it'll literally put you in the top 5% or top 2% of investors without trying. If your outperformance comes from longevity and endurance rather than beating the market in a single given year, you can, I know investors who can have and will continue to beat the market. But I know that if I invested with those people or tried those strategies, the odds would decrease that I could keep it going for 50 years. But if I can be average for 50 years, I have very high confidence that I can pull that off. And the results, if I can pull it off, will be extraordinary. There's a quote from John D. Rockefeller where he was worth, zillions and zillions of dollars. And someone says, how much is enough? And he says, just a little bit more. And that mentality is exists for everyone. The right amount of money is just more than you have right now, no matter what the amount is. And I think there are decabillionaires for whom the ideal amount of money is just twice as much as what they have. Having enough money doesn't mean that you have no aspirations for more. I think to me, enough means that I go out of my way to manage my expectations with as much emphasis as I do improving my circumstances. So it's just reminding myself that what actually gains happiness in any endeavor in life is the gap between your expectations and your circumstances. So you need to put just as much effort and emphasis into both sides of that equation and keeping your expectations low. What I really want is freedom and independence. And I'm fanatical about gaining that, because once I gain that, then the thing that I actually want, which is just a life of control where I can read and hang out with my friends and the people who I love, that all falls into place.
For anything good in life, there's a cost that you have to pay. But most of the costs that you pay they don't have a price tag that you can just measure very cleanly. The cost of doing well in investing is putting up with volatility. The cost of a successful career might be long hours where you are pulled away from your family. The cost of a relationship is always needing to sacrifice and compromise for the other person. Nothing is ever free. And so much of the success in life is just identifying what the cost is and being willing to pay it. Because for all of those things I just laid out, investing, career, relationships, the cost of admission is worth it. Putting up with the volatility is worth it over time. Because if you can put up with the stock market falling 30%, if you can just say, it's not that big a deal, I'm just going to hold tight, 10 years from now, the cost is well worth doing that. So much of what matters in life is just the relationships that you have. And once you identify the cost of that relationship, you're like, I'll pay that cost all day long. It's so worth it. The amount of time between now and whatever your goal is, which is very different for everybody. There's going to be a point where I just say, look, I've accomplished what I want to with writing, and I want to be able to move on to something else. And there's going to be a point where I say, I really don't want to work that much anymore. I just want to move on. And maybe I need to take care of my parents. Would it be? So there's multiple different time horizons at different goals of your life.
So many of those people who retired at age 32, it's really fun for a month and then they're bored to tears. They have this fanatical desire to retire with not a single thought about what they're going to do after that, particularly because all of their peers are working. And I think by and large, the reason that traditional retirees don't fall into that is because they reach a phase in their life where they can't keep working physically or mentally. So they don't really have much of a choice. But for people who have a cognitive, they have the horsepower to keep working and the will and the drive to keep working, but they intentionally extract themselves from the system. They realize that like, no, actually the work and being productive and contributing to society was a big part of their identity. And once it's gone, they want it back really quickly. Financial independence is amazing. If you can gain independence and autonomy, to me, that's like the financial nirvana, but you're still going to work. You're still going to contribute to society. You're still going to put your brain to work every morning. You're just doing it on your own terms for the people who you want to work for, doing the projects that you want to work on, during the times that you want to work on, able to switch to a new project whenever you want to. That's the autonomy that people want.
If you're buying a house because you think it's going to be a good financial investment, stop. Even if it turns out in hindsight that it was, it doesn't matter. I think these are just purely lifestyle decisions. And I think so many people get screwed up when they're in a spot in their life where they should be renting because they need to be mobile. They need to move around to a new job, new career, new school, whatever it is. But they end up buying because they think they're going to make money doing it. Historically, in the US and the UK,